But just to talk to you a little bit about what the zone of innovation is and why we find it useful. So these are all plotted according to their future state. That is, we use the predicted population size, which you can see along here, along with the predicted maturity score. They're kind of hovering in a very similar spot when it comes to maturity. Even population, they're hovering, they're not that far apart. But we use our predicted population and maturity score, that future state, because we want to know, where is this going to land in the future? How much time do we have to communicate or to think about solutions? And in this instance, we can see that even with these really large growth rates, we expect that all of our microcultures will be in that early consensus stage for some time. Now, the good news is that means that, this isn't quite on the radar of many mainstream consumers as of yet. And because it's not, we have the opportunity to shape the narrative, to help shape some of these expectations and deal with some of the myths that we see coming up in this culture before they hit the mainstream. So in a sense, there's some good news in this for us. The other piece that's quite exciting here is that these are consumers who are open to technological change. They're excited to see that we may be able to come up with some solutions. Again, I think what was really interesting was some of the connective tissue that ran throughout this culture, one of which was food security, that concern that climate change is going to lead to food security issues. And how we can assure consumers what are we doing for the future? How are we going to protect food security? And then the other piece, as I've mentioned, that ran throughout this report is these are consumers thinking about solutions. They're not just thinking about the problem. They're optimistic that we will be able to overcome some of the challenges related to climate change as it relates to agriculture. So again, it was notable. Again, we saw some similar themes, some similar topics, some similar conversation from the consumers as when we looked at Regen Ag. But again, our lead consumer here is a lot more focused on technology as a solution, which is somewhat exciting. So I'm going to stop here. I will also note very quickly that we do have a summary slide here as well. It is just a one-pager, really brief overview of the things we've talked about, as well as a few calls to action. Obviously, you know your business best, and it is important to think about the consumer perspective as it relates to your own innovation cycle, your own capabilities. But a few thoughts here I'll leave you with. One is focus on improving soil health. Consumers see it as a threat to food security. If we're already focused on doing that, let's communicate it to consumers. Similarly, inform consumers about cover crops and any new technology that is going to help us overcome some of these problems. Similarly, keep consumers in the loop about drought-resistant crops. So we need to communicate changes that are taking place. And then anywhere we might be able to switch to renewable energy and ensure that we communicate about it is also an opportunity here.